In crochet, you're normally asked to work a series or a number of chains when you're working a garment or rows. And then to work your first row, you work into either the underside of a chain, the single loop, or the default method, you go into the top of the chain through the top two loops of the chain. What I want to show you is how to do a worked foundation row using half treble. It's simple, it's quick, and less prone to miscount, let's say. So to get started, cast on. Because we're working half treble, we need to do one chain as the foundation stitch or foundation chain for the second stitch, two more chains because a half treble is the equivalent of two chains, and when you work the row back, the second row, you will work into that top chain there, that top of the three, because it is a stitch. So to create our second stitch, you've got your three chains there. We work into the underside of that first chain because it's the foundation for the second stitch. Bring the yarn through. Now at this stage, to create your half treble, you would put the hook under the yarn and bring it through all three loops, but because we need to create the foundation for the next stitch, we work one chain. So that's our foundation for the next stitch. Finish off the half treble. And again, work through the two loops of the base chain, the foundation chain, bring the yarn through, work one chain, work the half treble. Repeat this. I'm using Aran yarn and a size 7mm hook to try and make this as big as possible so you can see it better. And we're just going to work 20 half trebles. Whoops, that's gone too far. There you go. So I've worked the chain, foundation chain for the next stitch. I'll finish off the half treble. Each time just make sure you only pick up the two loops of that foundation chain. I've split it, go back in, there you go, foundation chain, half treble. Just make sure you pick up the right loops of that foundation chain to work each of your stitches. One chain, half treble. You can see how the stem of the stitch is going up. You can see the top of the stitch, and that's the underside. So far we've got one stitch there, which is the two chains at the start. We then have, so we have 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 11. Bring the yarn through, one chain, let's do another count. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16. 4 more. 18, 19, and the last one. do a final count to make sure. So we have 1 at the start, which is the 2 chains, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, 18, 20. So you can distinctly see the stem of each stitch. The underside, as I said, is really neat with the chains, as neat as the top side. And the beauty of this is that it doesn't twist. Not like when you cast on chains and you work your first row, you're constantly having to untwist the initial chains, but this makes it much better and much far easier to count.